Hello and welcome to my midweek Mind-My-Mind session. Yes, I normally do this on a Wednesday, but it wasn't going to be possible yesterday. I was too busy, and in my normal state of optimism, I thought I'd be able to get on here earlier than I have today. So I do only have 5 minutes. But that is good. It keeps this nice and short and concise. And it's important that I come with the other side of last week's Mind-My-Mind, which was the perspective of optimism. So this week we are looking at the pitfalls and possibilities of pessimism. Now, I am slightly over optimistic, and we say slightly, it's like, yeah, slightly, as we learned last week. And my brother, it's very handy. I have a brother who is the other end of the spectrum. He is a fairly extreme pessimist. So I know these traits quite well. And what is important, as always, with everything that I do, is how this impacts your communication. How do you communicate when you are speaking to someone who thinks differently to you, whose perspective is different to yours? And as is my big thing, how much self-awareness do you have about how your impact might, how your outlook might impact others? I got a little bit distracted there by the lovely Alan saying hello. So hello again, Alan. Lovely to see you here on these lives, always. So pessimism, it gets a bad rap. I mean, us over-optimists, we get a bit of a bad rap sometimes because if you're an extreme optimist, you can be quite annoying. But mostly optimism is viewed a little bit more positively, I would say, than pessimism. And that can be a challenge, right? So even in itself, even in that perception. But what about if you are a pessimist, or if there are pessimists in your life and you find it challenging because you're an optimist? How can you adapt your communication? So what are some of the pitfalls? Let's have a look at the pitfalls first. I think we know most of them. So it's very possible, if you are a pessimist, that you might come across as miserly or miserable or an energy drain. And that is a challenge when someone is always looking on the, oh, what if it goes wrong side? Oh, but it won't work. It won't work. You can feel that being like, oh, whereas the over-optimist, oh, it'll be fine, can be annoying. The extreme pessimist can be quite draining. So if you know you're a pessimist, check in and just ask yourself, what impact do I want to have here? Because I'm sure that is not the impact you want to have. One of the other pitfalls is that you might take a long time to make up your mind about something, because you are looking for what might go wrong and, oh, what are the reasons to do it? And, well, I'm not sure. Is it really a good idea? Is it going to be worth my time? And because of that, we come to number 3 of the pitfalls, is you might miss out on opportunities. And the challenge with that is then that feeds your, oh, I knew it was a good idea and bad idea. I knew it wouldn't work out. Just as much as last week we said the optimist will go for something, and then a lot of the time it works out because they've gone for it. So both of these elements have their pitfalls and their possibilities. And I want to focus on the possibilities of pessimism because I think they get ignored a lot. And for the pessimists out there in the world, hello, welcome. What are the possibilities of pessimism? And again, I'm grateful to have my brother in my life because it really helps me, especially with helping people with communication. It helps me see the other side. So very often pessimists are quite thorough because they're looking for what might go wrong. So this brings me to number 2, which is you might see what other people might miss, especially us over-optimists, right? We don't do attention to detail. And because of that, so because you're looking on the, oh, what might go wrong side, or is it going to be worth it? If you are given the time, right? We know one of the pitfalls is pessimists might take a long time to decide something. But if you're given that time, you'll probably come up with really good solutions that actually make a difference and that have an impact because you've looked at the details, right? If I were an astronaut, for example, I would not want me being the engineer that checks the rocket over before it goes into space, right? Optimistic me would be like, oh yeah, that's fine. Oh, there's a rattle there. Oh, well, yeah, it's fine. I've given it a tweak. No. I would want my pessimist brother checking that rocket over before I went into space, because I know he will think of every possible thing that might possibly go wrong with that rocket. So when you are communicating with people, if you've got a pessimist in your life, in your team, in your work environment, if you're an optimist, you might find that challenging. But if you do find that challenging, ask yourself, how can I put them best to use? Or how can I change my perspective about how they're communicating their pessimism? Because actually, in some situations, that's really useful. And especially if you, like me, are a bit of an over-optimist, having someone who is a bit of a pessimist in your life, and no one wants either of the real extremes, but it's really important for you, especially if you run your own business or maybe in your social circle somewhere, it's actually really useful to have someone who's a bit of a pessimist in your circle, especially if you're doing something like making a big decision about a change. Go and ask them, because they will, because of the way they think about things, they will come up with things that might be challenges that you hadn't thought about before. So there we go. That is my little midweek mind-my-mind session on the pitfalls and possibilities of pessimists after last week's obstacles and opportunities of the optimist. What is important is that the more you understand yourself on all sorts of scales, the easier it is to understand the impact that you might be having in a room. So if you know you're a bit of a pessimist, and you haven't actually thought that in the past that actually you might be bringing people down with your pessimism, great. Hopefully there's a light bulb moment for you to go, okay, well, actually, I'm just going to voice the things that I see as a real threat or a real problem. I might not just be like, oh, well, that's not going to work. Well, that will never work. And if you're an over-optimist, be aware that your energy might be really irritating and annoying for some people because you're rushing ahead and they're wanting to take time. And it's how we communicate. The best thing you can have for communication is deep self-awareness. If you would like any more of this from me, then I do a monthly 45-minute Mind-My-Mind session in a Zoom room where you can come in person and actually ask me questions. They don't go live. They don't go out to the world. So what goes on in the room stays in the room. If you would like any vocal confidence, awareness, challenges to be conquered, then please feel free to reach out to me. Let's have a one-on-one communication, or have a look at what I offer on my website. For now, I've gone 2 minutes over. I need to get out of the house and get to Greenwich in 27 minutes, which the over-optimist in me even knows is not realistic. So I'm going to have to text my friend and tell her I'm going to be 5 minutes late, because even with all the optimism in the world, I am not going to do that walk in 23 minutes. It takes me 29 to 30. So go, take care. Thank you so much for everyone who's been here live, actually. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Alan. You love the way you look at life situations through different windows. I do. And all of those windows help us find different ways to communicate. I will be here next week with Christmas communication. How can you manage and cope and thrive over the festive season? Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.